This is SoundNotion, the weekly podcast for new music and music news. I'm Patrick Gulo.
I'm Sam Merciers.
And I'm David McDonald. This week we have but two stories for you, but both of them I think are pretty big. I want to start with the kind of fun one, and that is that we've got a new player in the streaming music service game today. You guys are big consumers of streaming music, right?
Love the streaming music.
What do you use, Patrick?
I use Spotify. I'm a proud paying member and account holder of Spotify.
Sam, do you use one of them?
Well, I don't really stream music like that. I use Google Music and listen to my own library of music when I'm out and about.
You know, that's really interesting because it seems like the newest entry into this game might combine both of those things, and that is Apple Music. Apple Music. So Apple announced this week at the Worldwide Developers Conference. That's their annual conference for developers held in San Francisco every year. And they had a big announcement. They had a number of kind of technical geeky things about coding and, I don't know, something about computer maths. And then at the end, after they had done like 2 hours on something about Objective-C or something like that, they got into a half-hour introduction of a new product called Apple Music. So it seems like they're getting rid of the iTunes brand. And they seem to be moving away slowly from the lowercase I, capital something in general. So we got the Apple Watch instead of the iWatch, and we've got the Apple TV, and now we've got Apple Music, which is pretty cool. They have a bunch of new features that are very different from the current iTunes setup. They spent a lot of time emphasizing that there was going to be a lot of human curation, which is something that a lot of people have tried to deal with over the last few years. They're not going to use algorithms the way you would get kind of the next random thing that Spotify or Rhapsody or Pandora think you will like. You can use a real person curated playlist, which is part of the charm of Beats Music, which they bought a couple of years ago. When they bought Beats as a whole, they bought Beats Music, and that was one of the selling points, was that you can listen to a playlist curated by your favorite artists and your favorite people in music. So that's an interesting thing, trying to solve this problem.
You're talking about famous artists curating lists for their listeners, not other users curating lists.
Exactly. So you can already do that on most of these on-demand streaming services, right? I can make a playlist and share it with you guys and say, hey, check out this great playlist that I made of Hindemith. And that's one thing. But, I know, right? But what they're saying is you can listen to this playlist that was put together by Taylor Swift, and you can only find it on Beats.
Well, I know that it's slightly different, but Bill Maher pointed out about this. He made a joke about it. He said that Apple Music has invented radio.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because they, in addition to this thing, they actually started a radio station. A radio station, a web radio station, yes, but a radio station that is not just like a running playlist, like on Pandora. It is a radio station that has live human DJs.
And live human DJs, personalities of music professionals choosing what songs you listen to in any hour. That sounds a lot like Kiss 108 FM or whatever.
It seems like what it is. So the new radio station is called Beats One, and it is anchored by, it's going to be one radio station, one single radio station. So there's not like an alternative station and a rock station and a country station and a hip hop station and a soul station and a 70s station. There is a station, Beats One. Now, the name implies that they may eventually unleash a Beats 2, 3, 4 through 97, a la BBC Radio. But right now, there is Beats One Radio, and it's going to run 24 hours a day. They made a big deal about it running 24 hours a day, as though radio stations run like 6 hours a day and then they go off air. But
now, have they hired about 5 or 6 vocalists to sing the name of the station in major seventh chords? That's all I really want to know.
I really hope so. I don't know how we're going to know it's radio without that.
Beats 101.
So they've hired some big time DJs that have had a lot of radio presenter experience, and they're going to be anchored in Los Angeles, New York, and London. So they will, and obviously they're not going to have just those three people, but those are kind of the headliners in each of those three time zones, which they hope, I guess, will cover most of the Western countries on that are covered by Apple. It's going to be the same radio, mostly the same songs in the library available in all of these places. These people are going to have interviews and stuff with artists, so there's not just people talking, but there's actually some kind of spoken content in addition to the music, which I think is a pretty cool idea. So that's I think a weird thing, because radio I think of as kind of a dying thing, but I don't know. What do you guys think of Beats One Radio? Sam is laughing.
Well, it's radio. I mean, I don't know.
I'm fine with radio. I mean, like having radio in the car is. I have no problem with radio.
Yeah,
well, so
absolutely.
In addition to this, they do have algorithmically curated radio and the kind of Beats curated, human curated playlist kind of radio as well. If you ever used the old Beats interface, there was kind of the you pick through these bubbles, this weird interface thing where you pick some things that you like in these bubbles that pop or something. So they've still got that from Beats. Say what?
Like Max on Netflix?
Yeah, it's like Max on Netflix.
He pretends to be your friend and is all chummy with you, but he doesn't know anything about you.
Well, until you tell him. I mean, he's like Clippy.
I don't know how many Jean-Claude Van Damme movies I need to tell him before he'll give me Kickboxer.
Does it have anything like integration with, I mean, I hate saying this almost, like social media kind of, anything new about the way it works with doing anything about sharing or anything like that?
So it's really interesting that you mentioned this, Sam, and I want to point out that Sam did not know this before he asked. There is a new feature that is related to something that they already do for app developers. Right now, if you're an app developer, you upload your apps and deal with reviews and payments and stuff through a portal called iTunes Connect. They've got a new thing that's Apple Music Connect, and artists cannot yet upload their music directly to the platform. So they've not Sherlocked companies like TuneCore or CD Baby that distribute your music to iTunes and Spotify and things like that. But you can add content that is not your regular records to this. So you can, have a kind of video blog kind of thing that you post up there, or even a short music video or a lyric video or something like that, and that you can follow artists. For regular users like you and me, you can follow artists on iTunes Connect as well, which is, I think, a pretty interesting way to solve exactly that problem. Is that kind of what you're thinking, Sam?
Well, I'm just asking. There's always new ways to think about doing that business, and I was wondering if they had thought of something new.
Well, that's kind of their new thing. Now, a lot of the other features are a little bit unclear at the moment. It's not clear to what extent your cloud library of your own tracks get to be merged with the library of tracks that they provide to you, a la Spotify. I'm really hoping that they can merge my uploaded locker things with the things that are in their on-demand streaming library, because then I could have both the things that they have and the things that they don't have. What they aren't offering, and I think this is really cool, is things that are not streaming. Things that you have purchased previously in iTunes are going to just automatically pop over to the new platform, and you'll be able to stream them in Apple Music. Things that you've purchased over in iTunes over the last however many years you've been using iTunes. I think it's been up for around 8 or 10 years now. So that's pretty cool. And presumably there will still be tracks that you can buy, but not use the on-demand streaming thing yet. So I think that is a really powerful way to get people to buy stuff, is if they do a search in iTunes hoping to be able to stream something and you can't stream it, but for $12.99 you can buy it, or for $1.29 for an individual track you could buy it, and then it would just pop into your streaming library. That could work.
That was going to be what I was going to ask about, because I do that. I go through that process with the Google Music, but it's not fun and seamless.
Do you ever buy things in iTunes where it's album only? Do you get the whole album because you want a specific track ever?
I usually get the whole album anyway, unless I have a really specific reason to only want the one track. If I know for sure that I don't want the rest of it, or if I already have the rest of it in some other format that I really like, unless I've got a good reason not to, I usually go with the full album, because usually if I like one track on the album, it's highly likely that I'm going to like other things that are on that album.
I wonder how they decide.
The process of buying something that, like, I'm streaming from my library and I think, this Bonnie Raitt song would make a great arrangement for a jazz combo. I want to listen to it. I don't have it. Then deciding to buy it right there is like way harder to buy it and have it show up in my library and keep going than it should be.
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple of other really exciting things, at least if you're like me and have not been using Apple stuff forever. I've been using a Mac laptop for about 3 years, and I've been using iOS, iPhone, iPad devices for about the last 8 months or so. But they are going to make iTunes, or not iTunes, I just did it, Apple Music. It's going to be a long couple of years before I get rid of that one. But they are going to make Apple Music available not only on Apple-made devices. Apple, the Apple company that makes MacBooks and iPhones, is going to make an Android application.
Oh, yeah.
So let that sink in for a moment. It took them a long time to be convinced to make an iTunes application for Windows. Originally, if you had an iPod and you were a Windows user, you had to use Music Match Jukebox to manage your tunes.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And then eventually they made iTunes, and then they were not very good at it and let it kind of get pretty crappy. But we are hoping that through this ground-up rewrite with Apple Music, that they will be able to avoid some of those things. But Apple is now an Android developer, which is pretty cool. You'll be able to access this on, at the very least, on iOS, Android, Macs, and on a web browser. So if you're using a Windows machine, I don't know if they're going to make a native Windows application, but you should be at least able to interact with it via your web browser. It's going to start later this month. I think June 30th is the launch date. You get a 3-month free trial, which is pretty generous, I think. 3 months free. But after that, there is no free tier, which I think is really interesting.
Speaking of 3 months, I read. Maybe you know something about this. I saw a headline or some first paragraph of some article saying something along the lines of artists won't be paid royalties for the first 3 months, or it'll be like half what they should be paid for the first 3 months of Apple Music, or something like that. Did you see anything
about that? I've not heard that. I'll have to look into that though.
Well, the golden goose would be having metadata that works for art music. Is there any information about what's going on there? Anything different than normal?
There's a lot of stuff that's pretty unclear still. So we'll have to wait until it launches in later this month, in a couple of weeks. But when it does that, we can all hop on the free trial and try it. You know, I'm gonna.
Sure.
You seem unconvinced, Sam. So it costs the same as the competing services at about $10 a month. However, you can share with up to 6 family members for $15 a month, $14.99. That'll be interesting. I don't know how familial your family has to be. I don't know if you have to all be in the same family sharing plan. That was not clear in the announcement. Some people have been reporting that you do have to be all in the same family sharing account, and other people will just have said that you just have to have up to 6 accounts. So
if I switch to
6 accounts, then
here
you go.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry to interrupt. Here it is. Okay, a leaked document, a leaked contract from Apple Music details and the agreements with artists. According to documents, artists will be paid nothing by Apple, while users are able to access the streaming service during their free 3-month trial.
Wow, that's a pretty big concession.
So for trial user, here's the line: for trial users and for comp accounts that iTunes provides on a gratis basis, no license or royalty fees. Yeah.
Free gratis.
Yeah. Including fees will be due to company.
That's a Deadwood joke.
Will be offered free.
Free yeah.
Free gratis.
Kind of free gratis.
So I think that's really interesting. What is really weird about that is that it means that's 3 months for each user. So if I do 3 months, it'll start for those 3 months. Nobody will get paid. But then if you start a month later, it's going to be your 3 months where none of your streams get paid.
Well, and I'd imagine the most activity from most users who will ever try and use the new service will be during that 3-month period.
That could be true. That could be true. Well, that's interesting. So a lot of this stuff we're going to have to figure out, and maybe when it comes out and we've all had a chance to poke at it, we'll revisit this and have kind of a review of the application and the service. But there's a lot going on, and Apple is trying really hard to fight back against Spotify, which has become a giant. After Apple made this announcement, there was, I don't know if it was an official announcement or if it was just kind of a side note leak type thing. But there was some word that went out that their goal was to hit 100 million users. 100 million users is a lot.
Is that all?
Service. That is more. So first of all, remember, that's 100 million paid users. They don't have free accounts. So it's 100 million paid users. Now it helps that every time somebody buys an iPhone, it's gonna come with Apple Music pre-installed. You're gonna see that note there, and you'll be able to jump in right away really easily and really quickly.
We just have to make it so easy that people don't mind paying for it.
Exactly.
That's when it happens.
Well, and compare that to Spotify, which shortly after this announcement announced that they are up to 20 million paid subscribers. And that's
I bet all the cellular providers are just going to add that into their flex plans and stuff. Like 20 cents more a month for Apple Music or whatever or something. If you sign a contract with them and get a new phone.
Yeah, there have been some services where they've been zero rating your data for the certain streaming music services. T-Mobile has done this a lot for streaming music services. They don't count the use for those services against your data cap.
And that's pretty cool.
That's called zero rating, and there are some people that think that it might be illegal. So we'll see how long that lasts. But
some might think it's illegal.
Some people have proposed that it is an illegal violation of net neutrality rules. But we shall see. It is certainly an interesting development. On a sadder note this week, or before we get to this, do you guys have any other thoughts on?
Well, just media conglomerates should know that we have a powerful endorsement. SoundNotion is waiting for the first streaming service to really figure out metadata and make it work right. They get the powerful SoundNotion endorsement. So,
and we can be bought. We have a price,
yes.
And it's actually not that high.
You'd think with an offer like that people would already be on figuring this out. I mean, they don't realize what they're missing.
Yep, that's soundnotion@gmail.com, kids. So we can be bought, and for an astonishingly low price.
Is that our email? I don't even know.
I don't know. I think it's SoundNotion. Could be SoundNotion TV. Let's go with SoundNotion TV at Gmail.
Try one of those, folks.
One of those two. We'll get all kinds of emails. And if you own SoundNotion at gmail.com, we apologize. Also, you should give it to us. In sadder news this week, we said goodbye as a society, as a culture, to Ornette Coleman. He passed away this week at age 85, and was a wonderful saxophonist among other instruments. He was a great multi-instrumentalist, but he's most well known as an alto saxophonist and a wonderful composer. And he passed away this week at age 85. He is, I hesitate to say what he is most well known for because he did so many wonderful things. His album Free Jazz is often credited with popularizing that expression for avant-garde jazz, free jazz. It's a wonderful album. Of course, probably the thing that I think of related to him first is even before Free Jazz, The Shape of Jazz to Come. The wonderful recording of Lonely Woman that's on that is something that I've been listening to a lot this week. And of course, in 2007, he was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for his album Sound Grammar, which is another astonishingly beautiful recording. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on Ornette?
I'll take a stab at the thing he's most well known for, or as. I would say for, just because certain saxophone players, when they play, there is never any denying that that's that person. You know what I mean? He doesn't blend in. He always sounds exactly like Ornette Coleman, no matter what the situation is.
That plastic horn.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. That was his thing when he was starting out, and that was a product of shortage on metal stock during World War II. And those plastic alto saxophones that were manufactured are actually collector's items because the plastic just disintegrates over time when it's exposed to ultraviolet rays.
Well, and eventually that became his kind of signature sound, and he was eventually, I mean, obviously later in his career, he would have had access to whatever
you wouldn't have
he wanted.
Yeah, you wouldn't have go and see him, anytime after he became who he was, in the fullness of his career, and see him playing on a plastic saxophone. He was, and at the end of his career, he was a signed Selmer artist, so he played some sort of a Selmer something or other.
Yeah. So I mean, the creativity with his improvisations is really astonishing, and they're so well structured. And I think one of the things that he does that always really interested me as a composer is the way he balances the freedom inherent. It's not a free-for-all. Like, this is something that I think a lot of people get wrong when they talk about Coleman and free jazz, is that it's not just play whatever you want whenever you want. There's a lot of structure. Some of that structure is planned, and a lot of that structure, and I think this is the really interesting stuff, is structure that emerges as the improvisation unfolds and has a lot to do with listening. It's a wonderful listening exercise to not only play some of this stuff, but to listen to how other people structure it. There are a lot of kind of touchstones in the music that he recorded in free jazz, and of course in the earlier recording of Lonely Woman. There's a head, there's a tune that they're improvising on, and it's more of, as he kind of breaks down harmonic expectations, it becomes more of an exercise in motivic development as he gets into the improvisations, which is a really interesting thing. And a similar thing happens in free jazz. And of course, in sound grammar, it's very well structured, and it's structured not just over the course of that piece, but the Pulitzer was awarded not to an individual track, as I understand it. It was awarded to the album, which is a beautiful whole work, almost the same way that a whole string quartet is a whole work. And I think that's an interesting thing for us to consider, is where somebody like Ornette and where improvisation gets to sit in our understanding of capital G great, capital C canonical concert music. Where does that sit for you, Sam?
Well, the Academy doesn't have any, I don't think, has much of an idea what they think should happen. I mean,
Who's the Academy? Who's your Academy?
The people I've had experience with who are, I guess you might call them the gatekeepers, who I perceived as the gatekeepers when I was going through school, the people I learned from. Almost universally would respect something like this, but couldn't place it in context of my education, or in context of what we consider canon, or in context of anything else that I might have been learning about, other than to say, yeah, I respect it, it's cool. You know what I mean? It's acknowledged, but not integrated into the education experience in any way for me.
It's tough, I think, in part because a lot of the way we study music is based on notation. Mm-hmm. And unless somebody's going to spend weeks and weeks painstakingly transcribing free jazz, I'm sure such a thing exists because that's such an important recording, I can't imagine making it myself.
Yeah. I forgot his name. The department chair at the University of New Mexico, I'll have to look it up, but he was big into transcribing free jazz. That was kind of his theoretical thing.
I will buy a
Everyone
copy
should
of
check
that.
out.
I will not try to do it myself.
Yeah. Gotta find
Everyone should check out Frank J. O'Terry's conversation with Ornette from 2007 or 8 or something like that. It's a really long conversation he had with him, but it's great.
Yeah, I agree. I poked at that a little bit this week, and Alex Ross gave it a little shout out on his blog as well. it's a really, really nice thing. And he talks about, the role of composing in his career and the relationship between improvisation and composition, and how he thinks about those two things in his creative life. It's really sad to see him go. We lost a lot of pretty important musicians and people in the arts and entertainment this last week, and Ornette really hit me hard.
Yeah.
But on the bright side, I've been listening to, it reminded me of how much I love all of those recordings, and I've been listening to a lot of it this week as well, and foisting it upon some of my students.
Yes. And to me, it's like the most amazing thing he does is continue like playing he like abandons a need for the notes that he's playing to make any sense as notes, but he's still playing gesture and melody in a way that doesn't care what the notes are that are happening. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, he can keep that going in a very interesting way for a very long time. Like basically talk gibberish in a very cool way for a very long time.
And I think that's very valuable. I think we ignore that at our peril in writing music and in listening to music. So if you guys don't have any other thoughts, I know this is kind of a brief episode this week. We've had some weird scheduling stuff the last few weeks, so I know it's been a while since we've done one of these, but we should be back on a somewhat regular schedule. We may get thrown off again a little bit for American Independence Day at the beginning of July, but then we should be getting back on our weekly schedule horse from mid-July on. Looking forward to the fall. There's always a lot of exciting new pieces that are being premiered in the fall and exciting record releases in the fall. So we're gearing up for that. We've got a guest on the books for next week, and
cool guest.
Really excited. Very cool guest. Stay tuned, and we'll be hopefully back to our regular weekly schedule before too long. So thank you for sticking with us. Sam,
I have something, Dave.
What you got?
Just a little tag at the end. So Percussion is playing at Bonnaroo this year.
That is very cool.
It is very cool, and it's going to be a hit.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of those ensembles that I describe as a band.
Yeah, absolutely.
But definitely a band. So I love Alarm Will Sound, and they call themselves a band. I don't know if they're a band, but So Percussion is definitely a band.
Yeah, well, I want to know, I mean, I'm sure that there will be all kinds of footage available after this happens. I want to know how far they ask the audience to go, because So Percussion can ask the audience to go a long way if they want to.
Or they could play something real groovy.
They could, or I'm sure it'll be a mix. I'm just wanting to know how much vinegar they ask the audience.
You think they're going to get the cactus out? Get the cactus out and do some Cage.
Yeah, I don't know, man. If you got a cactus out, the hippies
Show
will
title,
be so happy.
Get the cactus out.
It would take the hippies like 15 minutes to get over being fascinated by the fact that there's a cactus. Oh, look, he's got a cactus. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they could probably, after that performance, sell a bunch of music cactuses as music instruments, right? Because as you know, as soon as you say that a product is for music or for photography or something like that, you can instantly charge 8 times more for it. If it's just a shop light, then that's like $8. But if it's a light for a music stand or for photography, then it's $80.
Well, let me ask you this: if you were at some sort of a music festival and you could buy a musical cactus, and it was like such that you could take it home and sit down and plug it into an amplifier and immediately start playing.
Oh man, already mic'd up.
Already mic'd, just ready to go. What do you think that's worth? And do you think we should go ahead and register the domain name for our musical cactus?
Plumbing. Musicalcactus.lemon. No, here we go. You ready for this? Everybody sit down. Musical cactus.
Agriculture?
No, musicalcactus.ninja.
Okay. So Patrick, how much would you pay for such an instrument? It's ready to go, man. You're ready to cactus music away.
To cactus out, probably the same as a plastic trombone.
Oh, come on.
Really?
Hey, those are pretty good.
We're talking about a bespoke electric cactus here.
How is this a live cactus?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
That one must keep taking care of.
Were it a dead cactus, it would not sound enough.
Well, I didn't know if you're talking about a fake plastic cactus.
No. Not a pea cactus.
A not the pea bone.
This is a true cactus.
Yes.
An electric cactus.
You know what, guys? I don't think you can put a price on it.
No, come on, seriously.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Kickstarter. You and me.
I have absolutely no clue how much this is.
Well, we got to get this to market in time for So to be selling them at their Monterey show.
Well, we can talk about this at our next SoundNotion meeting.
Yes, this is on the topic. This is on the agenda. Everybody write this down. This is on the agenda. I'll make sure it's in the memo.
Yep.
Business item, previous business.
This is so this is definitely not a novelty item, is what you're saying.
Electriccactus.ninja.
I mean, you could plug it in and play the world's hardest cactus music that's in the canon.
Right. I mean, and if you buy the Electric Cactus, you're gonna have to buy the book of Electric Cactus etudes that I'm gonna write to go with it.
What is this? What's the guy? Mel
Brooks.
No.
Mel Bay.
Mel Bay. The Mel Bay, because he has a guidebook for everything. The Mel Bay musical cactus.
You're thinking of Mel Brooks. This is from the Blazing Saddles.
Yes, which has cactuses. Cacti.
Right. Cactum.
Yeah, it has cacti.
Cactusin.
All right.
And that's gonna do it because it's kind of late. That's gonna do it for this week's SoundNotion. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be back to our regular schedule soon, I promise. You can find the show notes where you'll find links to some of our favorite Ornette Coleman remembrances and some news items about Apple Music this week at our show notes at soundnotion.tv/SN. You can also poke around that soundnotion.tv site and find links to our other fine podcasts. You can also find those wherever finer podcasts are aggregated. If you'd like to leave us a review, that would really help us to reach some more people, and we always want to reach more people with our stories of electric cactuses and Ornette Coleman and Apple Music. So please leave us a review if you like it. Leave us a 5-star review and tell us why you like it so much. If you don't like it, leave us a 5-star review and tell us what we're doing wrong with our lives. Because Lord knows there are plenty of things we're doing wrong with our lives, and we're only going to read the 5-star ones. So if you want us to fix it, you got to give us the 5 stars. Thank you so much for being with us this week. We'll see you back next week.
Cactophone.
That is what it should be called, the Cactophone.
I already put down the title as electriccactus.ninja.
That's pretty good, too.